Hotep, I am the Amen Osiris, the one and only undisputed God of law. We are 4dterminator.com, America's only 4D education service. Thank God I'm not a lawyer. Thank God this is not a law firm. We don't advocate that you don't support your human offspring. We simply advocate that you made them in private, take care of them in private. Today, what I'm going to teach you, gentlemen, is that Title 4D is a business for profit. I'm also going to teach you that the phrase child support does not exist, which basically renders it 15 U.S.C. subsection 52, dissemination of false advertisements, unfair and deceptive acts. All right, let's jump into this. First and foremost, the coined phrase child support does not exist. Okay, gentlemen, start looking at your definitions. 45 C.F.R. 301.1. Those are federal definitions that'll tell you a lot about child 4D. Excuse me. All right, the 4D 301.1 defines the 4D agency, not a child support agency, as the alone, detached, and disconnected organizational unit in the state. You know, like your wallet goes in your pocket. That has the responsibility for administering and supervising the administration of the 45 CFR 301.10 plan. Okay, we're going to get to that plan in a minute. All right, so number one, the Supreme Court ruled on this back in 1997. All right, it's case law, Blessings versus Freestone. I'm quite sure those of you in the 4D the fight against the crime family community are aware of this case law. All right, but in case you're not, the requirement that a state operate its 4D program in substantial compliance with Title 4D was not intended to benefit individual children and custodial parents, and therefore it does not constitute a federal right, far from creating an individual entitlement to services. All right, the standard is simply a yardstick for the Secretary of the United States Department of Health and Human Services, Javier Becerra, to measure the system-wide performance of a state's 4D program. Thus, the Secretary must look to the aggregate services provided by the state, not to whether the needs of any particular person have been satisfied. Blessing versus Freestone. All right, We Hunt versus Ledbetter. 11th Circuit held that needy families with children were not the intended beneficiaries of the of Title 4D by pointing out the legislative history of Title 4D was intended to benefit the public treasury and the taxpayer. All right, but they don't write public treasury and taxpayer support on it, does it? All right, they use child support for public outcry and shit like that. Oh, you're not paying your child support. No, you're not supporting the public treasury and the taxpayer support. That's what you're not paying. Okay, remember that. I wanted to throw that in. This is not really part of the lesson, but it is. All right. Secondly, the 4D program, gentlemen, is a business for profit. Okay. Now, check this out. Look up the definition of the word state agency. All right. And look up the definition of the word 4D agency, excuse me, which I just gave you. The 4D agency, gentlemen, it's in the state. It is not a state agency. It is not an arm or instrumentality of the state. It is an instrumentality of the Federal Office of Child Support Services. All right, it should be labeled Federal Office of 4D Services. Okay, they submit a plan to them. They also go into a contract with them. They are instrumentalities of the federal government. I'm going to drill that to you till you keep on getting it. All right, now, so this is how we prove that the 4D program is a business for profit. Okay, now you go to, I'll put these links in here about the Office of Child Support. This is the federal channel. All right. The federal OCSC within the US DHHS. All right. Partners with federal, state, tribal, and local governments. Glossary of common child support terms. 4D program means the federal state partnership established under the 4D of the Social Security Act. All right. We want this. All right. We go to the federal manual. For those of you who have spoken with me, you should have this. All right. Page 65 further provides that the 4D program is a partnership between the federal government and the states. This renders the federal OCSS and the 4D agency operating in whatever state you're in a partnership, which is an association of two or more persons as co-owners of a business for profit. Black's Law's Dictionary, look it up. Okay. Now, because it is a business for profit, they were required to submit a business plan. 45 C.F.R, remember I told you we'll get to this, 301.10 provides that the 4D program as a business for profit required Region 2, we'll say, to submit a business plan giving assurance to the federal OCSS that the 4D program will be administered in conformity with the specific requirements stipulated in Title 4D, its regulations, and other applicable issuances of the United States Department of Health and Human Services, not the State Department of Social Services, Attorney General. All right, in other words, it ain't ran by the state, it's ran by the federal government. Okay. Now, case law says an approved plan must be in effect in all political subdivisions of the state and must provide for entering into what? I'm going to take this out because I hate that word. Contracts with appropriate courts and law enforcement officials. Gentlemen, if you've, real fast, let me go off topic. If you've ever not known this, all right, you'll know it now. Title 4D is enforced in what's called courts of chancery or courts of equity. Now, Title 4D was never enacted into positive law, which is Title 42 of the United States codes. All right, it was never enacted into positive law. It is presumed to be law, okay? It only applies to non-custodial pay rents, and you have to have a contract. So what they did, because it's non-positive law title, they put it in the court of equity or chancery, right? Because chancery deals with on the sphere of morals, not any aspects of positive law. So chancery is basically somebody saying this is fair and just. All right, Title 4D is not fair and it's not just because, number one, it's a business for profit and it was never intended to benefit individual children or custodial parents. So how does that make it just? They're not even entitled. Look, there's no entitlement. All right. Far from creating an individual entitlement to services, right? It does not constitute a federal right. So how could this be equitable? It's not. All right. And then, of course, in the court of equity, you don't get a trial by jury. That's why they throw it in the Chancery division. All right. So we now have their business for profit. Okay. The 4D program is a partnership. All right. The 4D program required, it's a business for profit. So it required a business plan. Okay. This business plan was submitted to the Federal Office of Child Support Services, who is within the United States Department of Health and Human Services. Okay, Tangela Gray and Javier Becerra. All right. So they submitted a business plan, which means they're no longer, if it was the state, that means the state just waived its sovereignty. Okay, this is how I trap them up. Oh, we're sovereign. So you submitted a business plan. You also went to contract with a foreign entity, and you're telling me that you're sovereign and you have to work off of foreign federal regulations, and you're telling me that you're sovereign? Sovereignty means you handle your own internal affairs without foreign dictation, not on the Title 4D. All right, they are not sovereign. There is no 11th Amendment immunity. All right, so what are services? It says child support services, Title 4D services. So, oops, my bad. Service is the act or use for which a consumer, firm, or government is what? Willing to pay. So the business for profit sells these 7 4D services to customers. And these are the regulations that require that, okay? So parent location, paternity establishment, establishment of orders, review and modification, collection, distribution, and establishment and enforcement. That's what they sell, okay? They sell these services to women for $35. This is how you got jacked up by operation of law by a mere $35 transaction. A 4D debt occurred upon you without your consent or knowing or cooperation. So we know that it's a business for profit, and we know that they sell 4D services to customers. All we got to do, prove that they have customers, go to their websites. New Jersey website, look, customers need to update your address. California website, welcome to Customer Connect. All right, Georgia, Title 4D website, contact customer service. All right, customer is a buyer, purchaser, or patron, Black's Laws Dictionary. Okay, what is a service? Well, these are the services, but the definition of a service, all right, I think it's on the bottom here. All right, so we'll get that in a second. 4D services shall be available to any individual upon application filed by such individual with the 4D agency, all right? Statutes right here. The provisions of 4D services between the business or profit and the purchaser are governed by the application, okay? 6BI provides that a $35 application fee for furnishing these services, which ruin your life, shall be imposed. All right, $35. Now, this is just to get it started, gentlemen. You know that they're making billions, okay? But that's what it took to get you enslaved. $35 application fee, okay? The states make a profit from the 4D business for profit, from the 4D program. States are free to spend their share of collections in any manner the state sees fit. All right. The 4D agency is the sole point of contact for the federal government. All right, and the entity through which federal 4D funding, i.e., profit, flows. All right, got that off the Self-Represented Litigation Network. All right, so gentlemen, Title 4D is a business for profit. Okay. You have a right. Exercise your First Amendment right to not assemble. Exercise your First Amendment right to not associate. This is fraud. Okay. There is no such thing as child support. All right. And the high courts have said this. If Title 4D, so the first case law tells us that 4D was never intended to benefit individual children and custodial parents. Look at the words. Look, was never intended to benefit them. It was intended to benefit the public treasury and the taxpayers. Dissemination of false advertisement, gentlemen. All right, all you got to do, we're not reinventing the wheel here, gentlemen. We're taking their shit and we're using it against them. That's all we're doing. No more, no less. So you got dissemination of false advertisements, which led to the deprivation of your first, fourth, fifth, sixth, probably you see 13th and 14th Amendment rights. Not to mention your inherent rights of being equally, by nature, equally free and independent. All right, under Title 4D, you are a slave, gentlemen. All right, they consider you property, and you better start addressing the issue real fast. Okay, this is just a little taste. All right, we got a lot more. I'm going to be putting out a lot more of this information. All right, I don't understand why people just ain't putting this out there. All right, there's no magic bullet. All right, the only thing that you can do, remember, you have the right to remain silent. Okay, you have the right to express yourself, and publish your sentiments. All right, of being responsible for the abuse of that right. Okay, you can now hold them of being responsible for the rights violations and deprivations and the injuries that you're suffering from now. You can also file an injunction, right, demanding that, asking the federal court to restrict them from using the phrase child support services and either put 4D services, or if you're going to use the word support, use public treasury and taxpayer support services. All right, there's a lot you can do just from right here. All right, so you got compelled association. As a result of this compelled association to a business for profit, you've been enslaved. All right, they had a business plan. If it was a plan, that means the deprivation of your rights was premeditated. Okay, not for the best interest for the children, but what? To benefit the public treasury and the taxpayers. $37 trillion in debt. What do you think they're going to be on the corner selling pottery? No, gentlemen. All right, they're just using it. All right. And start looking up equity in Chancery. I'll have a class on it one day. I'm Osiris. If you need a consultation or if you'd like to take a class, email me at hathorsec@gmail.com. If you care to make a donation, cash at me at Destroyer 4D. All right, we'll put the links and everything in here. If you need some books, all right, you need some case laws, contact me. All right, but more importantly, if you want to be free, contact me. Okay. If you want to be free, contact me. I will show you how to free yourself. We have the weapons. All right, this is their information. Now we're using it against them. Can they come back and say that we're wrong? No. Okay. I can take everything that is written in Title 4D and use it against them to prove that they, by premeditation of a business plan, right? By requirement of a contract that is outside the prohibitions of the federal and state constitutions. All right, it's easy peasy. I'm Osiris, folks. You know where to find me. All right, let's wage war and let's get these people done. Hotep.